Hello everyone, I'm Tommy with Studio Sins, and welcome to the Wild and Summerful Whites of Zest Dominion. Yes, that is a weird title, and it's actually a play on words for the docudrama entitled The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. And if you haven't seen that, do yourself a favor and check it out. I think it's still on Netflix. It's pretty interesting, has literally nothing to do with what we're going to be talking about today. So I was trying to think of an interesting kind of kitschy title, and that one caught my attention because it has to do with whites. I used to work for Sherwin-Williams, and we had a section of books called Whites and Brights, which had to do with really light, like pastel colors. And I was thinking in terms of color and fragrance and what would be great for high heat. So when we return, we're going to talk about what that entails and get into this list, that and more. So stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. I lost my voice yesterday. When I woke up this morning, I had it back, but it's not like at full strength. So it sounds kind of croaky and kind of bad. So my apologies for that. All right, let's get into this list. 10 fragrances that are going to be perfect for those dog days of summer, that high heat or high noon. The title is kind of kitschy, but there's meaning in that. In fact, the word summerful means enough to fill a summer. And so these are 10 fragrances that should be enough to fill your summer with lots of fragrance rotation options for high heat. The very first fragrance that we're going to feature today is from CK or Calvin Klein, and it's CK IN2U For Him. And it's in this neat little bottle that reminds me of a bottle that should have like a ship in it. So this is for all you fans out there of semi-barbershop fougères with a modern twist to it. So this is a very citrusy yet musky fragrance. CK IN2U For Him features Mineola Tangelo, pomelo leaf, white cedar, and I think gin fizz that makes it interesting in terms of fizzing or popping off your skin. This is very citrusy, very peppery in the opening, and it dries down into a very nice modern musk. Now this does beg repeated sprays throughout your day to keep it nice and fresh. Love the smell, average performance, and that's why it came in at number 10. CK IN2U For Him. Taking the number 9 spot is an easily identifiable fragrance. It is from Lacoste. It came out in 2010 from perfumist Olivier Pachou, and it's from the L12.12 or L12.12 series from Lacoste, and it is Lacoste Blanc. This is, I think there are about 14 or so, at least on the men's side of fragrances in the L12.12 series, so there's quite a few, but this one I believe is probably the most widely sold and most widely used of the series, and for good reason. This features notes of cardamom, ylang ylang, rosemary, and frankincense. It's a super bright, clean fragrance that stays fresh even when the sun is at its apex. This fragrance here is great for almost any situation. It's a great daytime, nighttime, casual wear fragrance, primarily daytime. Easily taking my number 8 spot, and really it deserves better. Let's just say 4 years ago or so, this would have been a lot higher in the list, but a lot of fragrances, really great fragrances, have come out since then. This was released in 2016. It is from Natalie Thorson and Olivier Cresp, and it's a Montblanc fragrance called Legend Spirit. Yes, Legend Spirit is very similar to Invictus, and in fact, I think Hugo Boss United, which came out later, does also smell very similar to this, but I think this did it first. Featuring notes of bergamot, pink pepper, white musk, cashmere, and sandalwood, this is a fantastic high heat fragrance that will keep you fresh and smelling just like you jumped out of the shower, no matter what time of day it is. And of course, there are some aquatic notes in there as well. Extremely fresh, very kind of bubblegummy sweet. And that sweetness does last from the open into the mid and a little bit into the dry down. Dries down into a semi-sweet masculine musk that's great for daytime and nighttime casual wear. Now with this one, you have to prevent overspraying because that sweetness can kind of catch you off guard, especially in the open down into the mid, not so much in the dry down. My number 7 pick in the Wild and Summerful Whites of Zest Dominion needs no introduction. Once you see it, of course, you automatically know it is a John Varvatos fragrance, and it's Artisan Pure. This is a much loved and well-worn fragrance. It's very warm and green and herbaceous, slightly vegetal, slightly mineralic, but it manages to blend all of those attributes and notes into a very masculine, very great performing fragrance. It's a kind of green summer scent that is an ode to the earthy, raw, medicinal value in that hot summer. It's kind of like that sun-dappled forest ground that's filtered through thick foliage. It's a very clean, great daytime casual wear fragrance for those that like their fragrances on the green side, a little bit herbaceous, but with all those attributes, again, a great performer in John Varvatos' Artisan Pure. My number 6 fragrance is from perfumist Christine Nagel. She managed to create something extremely unique and was released in 2006 from the house of Lalique, and that is Lalique White. Of course, you knew that I had to include this in the Wild and Summerful Whites, because obviously it's in the title. This is another crisp, clean. This reminds me of primarily, at least in concept, is like a freshly pressed white t-shirt. It's lightly vegetal, but very warm. This is more along the lines of a spicy, green, herbaceous, a little bit like Artisan Pure minus the mineralic qualities. Features notes of bergamot, tamarind, lemon leaf, white pepper, amber, and musk, to name a few. To me, this is the epitome of clean, summer, manly robustness. Coming in at number 6, Lalique White. All right, guys, now we're in our top 5, and coming in at number 5 is directly from the juice cart, and it is from YSL. It is Eau Fraiche. And yes, it is white, kind of. It's like a frosted white, which is kind of a nod towards the fragrance. And you got your white lid as well. Hands down, this is a youthful yet sophisticated compliment puller that features notes of lemon, ginger, pepper, peppermint, geranium, juniper, and frankincense, just to name a few. This has that ever popular and youthfully energetic Y DNA in it. If you've ever seen a kid running around and overheard someone say, or maybe you've said it yourself, if only I could bottle that energy, well, YSL kind of did. This one stands out as one of the best for high heat because of how supportive that citrus zest is in it. And while you'll likely find yourself spraying a few more times than others might like you to, you'll find that it has really good performance as well. This one is definitely not timid when faced with the afternoon sun. It's daytime, casual, fruity, playful fragrance. Coming in at number 5, YSL's Eau Fraiche. Probably my newest release in this list as it was released this year in 2020. Coming in at number 4 is another fragrance that deserves its own accolades higher up in the list because of how well it portrays citrus with an almond heart. It comes from the house of Guerlain, and it is L'Homme Ideal Cologne. This is like almond lemonade, featuring notes like grapefruit, orange, bergamot, almond, neroli, and white musk. This is one of those fragrances that kind of begs to be just blasted on without fear of what others might think, because you know what? Everybody loves this. Women absolutely love this fragrance. This is actually quite common for this to pull compliments from women. If you like citrus mixed with a refreshingly creamy, light almond that lasts all day, then you'll really like L'Homme Ideal Cologne. It's a solid performer that's classy enough to be worn dressed up, but also laid back enough to be worn casual activities, whether it is daytime or nighttime. And that's why it comes in at my number 4 spot. All right, guys, we've made it to my top 3. Now, this next fragrance coming in at number 3, I have to say, is probably one of the best, most underappreciated hidden gems of the last 4 years. It comes from the house of Esker de la Renta, and it is called Gentleman. Gentleman was released in 2016. It's a flagship fragrance for Esker de la Renta. Basically goes along with the tagline, a life well played. I think that's kind of the cool thing about the fragrance, but also the issue is that a lot of people are dismissive of the presentation because it's like a domino. When do you ever look at a domino and think, oh, that'd be a great presentation for a fragrance? Some people look at this, they think automatically it's not something that they'd be interested in wearing, but once you wear this, you're like, oh, that's really nice. It is elegance and masculinity defined, featuring notes of bergamot, champagne, grapefruit, rosemary, black tea, and amber. This thing right here will surprise, this fragrance right here will surprise you. It opens citrusy, woody, fresh, but then dries down spicy, woody refinement that goes well with upscale activities as well as leisure activities or environments, and also great for high heat. And it's definitely signature scent worthy, and that's why it comes in at number 3, Esker de la Renta, Gentleman. Taking the number 2 spot is one of the best, at least in my humble opinion, one of the best Hugo Boss fragrances that have come out in the past 6 years. And yes, you probably already know, because you know that white bottle. It's very iconic. Hugo Boss Bottled Unlimited. Now, there are a couple of clues as to what this fragrance is like in the presentation itself. You see the green and unlimited, and when you take the cap off, I'll have to show you. It's got green on, I guess I'll call it the reticule of the actual atomizer. And yes, it is a very green fragrance. Now, the unusual thing about this is it manages to capture that very familiar and by now iconic Boss Bottle DNA, yet it's unique enough in its own. Featuring notes of mint, violet leaf, pineapple, rose, grapefruit, and I think sandalwood as well. So very creamy, very herbaceous, lightly sweet, not really vegetal green. It stands on its own as being very unique, and that's why it's made my #2 spot, Hugo Boss Bottled Unlimited. A great performer. All right, guys, coming in at #1, featuring notes of mandarin, bergamot, orange blossom, akigala wood or akigala wood, pepperwood, atlas cedar, tonka bean, and musk, is an Azzaro fragrance that actually saved my life, and I'll tell you that story, and that is Chrome Pure by Azzaro. Now, this is a tester. It's an eau de toilette concentration, of course. All these have been eau de toilette concentrations, by the way. Chrome Pure, how did it save my life? This happened actually not that long ago. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, but I love kayaking. I went with some friends. We were having a great time. We only had 2 kayaks and 1 tube, but the tube did not have the hole like a donut, and it had been raining really hard lately. I didn't know what a strainer was until this happened to me, but if you look it up, you'll see what it is. Anything such as a branch or some kind of obstruction that you get stuck on, because I couldn't steer super well, I was turned around a little bit and didn't see. It was like this big huge branch that went almost into the middle of the river. It knocks me off my vessel. Instinctively I grab it, and that's when the strainer situation occurs. My vessel or device went whoosh out from under me. The branch actually disappeared in the water. So I was literally like this squirrel in the middle of these extremely fast rolling rapids. On one side of the bank, about 20 people gather. On the other side of the bank, about 30 people gather. So I have all these people with their phones recording me. Police have to come and they have to get a rescue boat and they come get me. This story and Chrome Pure is that I was actually wearing this. And as I was sitting there on the branch, just kind of waiting to be rescued, I was actually smelling, and I was like, wow, nice fragrance to have on when, you know, you're gonna die. Even though being dunked underwater a couple of times and having rapids roll over you, it lasted very well. I mean, it was like very fresh, smelled very good. So that's how Chrome Pure kind of saved my life. It's a very fresh yet slightly sweet, and of course if you appreciate the OG Chrome, of course that carries that DNA, and that's why it's made my #1 in this list of Wild and Summerful Whites of Zest Dominion. Zest Dominion, citrusy, super fresh. Summerful meaning enough fragrances to fill up your summer rotation. So hopefully if you own any of these that you have appreciated using them, let us know in the notes below how you've enjoyed using these fragrances. If you don't have any of these, I recommend getting them. Check out in the description below. I've got a list of them that you can click on to purchase from Fragrance X if you don't have them and want to add them to your rotation. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching my video with me today. As always, thanks so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you next time.